What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video on this chilly Friday. It went from like earlier in the week, I was in shorts and a t-shirt and I had my air conditioning on until like I went out to get my morning coffee today and I was like, it's freezing in a sweatshirt. It's what happened to fall? It went from hot to freezing in a little bit. I'm sure it'll get warmer throughout the day. But anyway, wanted to come on and talk to you guys about something a little bit different. Usually, I mean, we are very Jets heavy focused. It's the Jets channel. But today I want to talk about college football because the Jets are 0-5. Unfortunately, with how they've looked so far this year, they would have the number one pick in the NFL draft if the season ended today. Now, the season doesn't end today. There are still 12 more games. And while, unfortunately, I don't see the Jets' first win of the season coming this week, naturally, it's going to be time to start looking at prospects. And when you have the number one pick in the draft and you don't have a definite answer at the quarterback spot, yes, there are a million other positions the Jets could look at, but quarterback is going to be a major, major talking point. So what I wanted to do was take a look at the college slate this week because there are a ton of head-to-head matchups with quarterback prospects that you should absolutely be watching right now. And again, I'm not saying don't watch the Jets game on Sunday or don't watch the remaining 12 games of the year. Of course, yes, but I know it's early October. It stinks that we're at this spot, but you got to start familiarizing yourself with some of these names. So what I want to do is go through the slate. I'm not going to go the big matchup. I'm going to save that for the second one. I'm going to go chronological order. So if you don't have any plans for Saturday, or even if you do have plans for Saturday, here's what you do. You cancel them and say, I got to go scout to see who the Jets' next quarterback's going to be. Your day starts at noon, 12 o'clock. Alabama playing Missouri. And who you're looking for is Ty Simpson, Alabama's quarterback. He's been rising in popularity the last few weeks. After an underwhelming week one in a loss to Florida State, Alabama's rattled off 4 straight wins, including a big 24-21 win over Georgia. And Simpson looked honestly really good against Georgia. He went 24-38 for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't know about right now if he's a first-round talent, but with how he's played, he's trending that way. And if he has a good performance this week, and if that continues throughout the rest of the month of October and into November, we might be talking about this guy as a first-round talent. And that's kind of where I'm at with this quarterback class. I think some of the bigger name guys who we thought were going to be, leading this class have maybe underwhelmed a little bit, and we'll talk about those guys. But some guys who were maybe considered day 2 players have had strong starts to the season. So while, Cade Klubnik, who is someone we talked about a lot about this summer, Garrett Nussmeier, who we'll talk about later in the video, Arch Manning, and not that I ever thought he was coming out this year, but there's been some big names that have underwhelmed. And the consensus kind of went from this is a really good quarterback class to this quarterback class stinks because some of the names that we knew haven't been playing so well. But the quarterback play from some other guys have honestly been impressive. But it's kind of a debate who quarterback 1 is. I don't know if Ty Simpson ever gets himself up to the number 1 spot, but he's rising and absolutely a name that we should know. So just more background on him, like a scouting kind of thing. He's 6'2", 208 pounds. He has a good release and good mobility too that he showed off against, SEC competition now, which is a strong conference in college football. The issue that I have with him is really his size. He's 33rd percentile in height and 11th percentile in weight. He needs to add on to his small frame. And also he has a small sample size as a starter. This is his first year as a starter. And I think it'll really depend on how he finishes this year to see where he's drafted. Can he be a first round guy? As I said, depending on how the rest of the year goes, sure, I think it's on the table. But kind of a fringe first round guy for right now. That is absolutely subject to change. But that's your first assignment. Your second assignment, there's a lot that you need to watch in the 3:30 window. So hopefully you can do a little split screen action, or you're really good with the clicker and can flip back and forth. But the most important game on the slate for Jet fans who want to watch quarterbacks that they might be drafting this year is Indiana versus Oregon at 3:30. Dante Moore versus Fernando Mendoza. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that I think have looked the best so far throughout college football and are debatable QB1 and QB2 in this class right now, again, subject to change. Looking at Fernando Mendoza, he's got the prototypical size, honestly, at 6'5", 225. Some of his strengths, he has good timing and throws in rhythm, which is obviously a good thing. Doesn't really put the ball in danger. He's a pocket passer. He's not crazy athletic. So if you want a quarterback who runs around a lot, Mendoza might not be for you, which is okay. But if you want someone who can, stand in there and distribute the football and has good size and a decent arm, then, Mendoza might be a guy that you like. His athleticism, I wouldn't classify as a strength. So that might be, a knock or a con against him going to the next level. His sack rate is a little high also. And that's something that you would probably like to see go down as the season goes on. A few games with some big numbers, honestly, this year against Kennesaw State, Indiana State, and Illinois. He has a 16-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is obviously incredible. The transfer to Indiana has really done him well. He was underwhelming at Cal, but something that I like about Mendoza is he's gotten better year over year, and you want to see that kind of progression. So Mendoza is absolutely a name that you need to know going into the 2026 draft, and one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft class. Again, if you're looking for someone who's like crazy mobile, going to run around and make a bunch of plays, that's not really your guy. But I think he's a good distributor of the football. And you could kind of say the same thing about Dante Moore. 6'3", 206. He's a rapid riser. He's come on really strong over the last few weeks. Now, he was the starter at UCLA in 2023 and was not very good. UCLA as a team just was honestly very bad. But he transferred to Oregon. He backed up Dylan Gabriel last year and has honestly excelled as the starter this year. He had the bye week this past week, so we haven't seen him in a little bit. But the last time we did see him was a huge win, not only for Oregon, but for the quarterback himself to add on his resume against Penn State on the road in the whiteout game, an incredibly tough atmosphere to go into as an opposing team. He went in and won. He went 29-39, 248 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns in that game. That takes guts, man. And something I'm going to talk about with some of these quarterbacks is, traits are important. Absolutely, traits are important when scouting a quarterback. But so is mindset, right? And like him and his team going on the road in a tough environment and him balling out and stealing a win, like that's impressive stuff, man. So you have to take some of those intangible things into account too when scouting and looking at quarterbacks. I don't know about you guys, but one of my biggest pet peeves is hidden fees when buying sports tickets. Why can't the price I see listed be the price I actually pay? If only there was an app where fees don't exist, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, TickPick, a huge shout out. With over 20 million downloads, TickPick has you covered for NFL, NBA, concerts, festivals, you name it, they have it. TickPick gives you the lowest prices guaranteed. No fees. What you see is what you pay. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use code HMA for $20 off your first set of tickets at TickPick with a purchase of more than $100. That's $20 off any tickets with promo code HMA. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you to TickPick. For some of his traits and things that are both positives and negatives about his game, with every single guy we go through, I'm not going to give you just all positives. I'm not going to give you all negatives. I'm going to try to, give you what I think he does well and what he needs to improve on, and you make the decisions whether or not you like the guys. But the good, quick release, good mechanics. The pocket presence has improved a ton since his UCLA days. I honestly think the year off and sitting did him well. He's got a good arm and can push the ball down the field, which I like. I think the Jets offense needs to get more vertical. He's not very mobile, and I think he can improve his passing under pressure. But again, he's a rapid riser who's improved a ton this year. It's another big game for him this week. It's a huge game, actually, going up against a really good opponent and another really good quarterback. Let's see how he looks in that one. Also at 3:30, you have to keep an eye on Oklahoma versus Texas. And for a couple of reasons. One, it's a huge rivalry game and it's awesome. That's great. But number two is John Mateer. That maniac's going to come back and play this week. He's returning. He's listed as probable and is trending towards playing after he just got surgery. 17 days ago? The guy's a dog. He has that mentality. And I talked about with Dante Moore, some of the intangible things like him going on the road and winning a big game in a tough environment. How about, John Mateer, who got hand surgery not that long ago and is like, no, I'm coming back. I'm playing against, Texas, it's a huge rivalry game and it's a big game. And I like that about him. Again, he's a little bit of a maniac, but in a good way. He's small, so 6'1", 224. Height-wise, doesn't really have it. He has the weight on him. But unlike some of the other guys we talked about, he can move and he can run with the ball. He's a very good runner of the football, makes guys miss in space. He's got a strong arm, has a little bit of a gunslinger mentality. And honestly, with him at Oklahoma and his size, it's hard not to see a little bit of Baker Mayfield in his game. And I think they have a similar mentality too. The mental toughness is such an underrated attribute when looking at quarterbacks. And it's hard for fans and people who only have like tape to work off to understand, because the NFL, they have the luxury of getting in a room with these guys and talking to them and asking questions and getting them up and drawing, plays on the board. We as fans and we as like I'll say amateur scouts, but like, people who just have the ability to watch tape and aren't interacting with these guys every week. That part's a little hard to judge, but I think it's more than just the physical traits to make up a quarterback to project at the next level. I mean, like, he transferred from Washington State, where he was solid as a starter last year, but has really taken a step at Oklahoma this year and is coming back for a big game. We'll see how he plays in this game against Texas. But earlier in the year, a huge test for Oklahoma. They beat Michigan in an upset win, and he played well. He was 21 of 34 passing, 270 yards, a touchdown and a pick, but he also added an additional 74 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So he had 3 touchdowns in that game in a big win over Michigan and has 11 total touchdowns passing and rushing through 4 games. Again, it's about how he finishes the year. It's a small sample size, but man, like this kid has been really good. And if he has a strong end to the season, he's going to be in the race for the Heisman, no doubt. No need to talk about Arch Manning in the draft context for a couple of reasons. One, he stinks or has stunk. I'm not saying he's not ever going to figure it out. He very well could. He's very, very talented, but has been bad so far at the start of the year. And I never thought he was coming out anyway. I think he's a 2027 draft guy, but with how he's played, he's absolutely going to be going back to school. I don't think it's even in the conversation. If you thought your day was over, wrong. You had the 12 o'clock game. You're keeping an eye on Alabama. You're flipping back and forth between Oklahoma and Texas, and also the head-to-head matchup with Mendoza going up against Oregon and Dante Moore. 7:45, you have LSU and South Carolina. So at night, no, you don't get a break. You got to watch Lenora Sellers going up against Garrett Nussmeier. Now, Sellers I feel like he's very polarizing. There's a lot to like about Sellers, but there's also some things to be concerned about. We'll talk through it. Great size, 6'3", 240, has the arm talent, has the ability to push the ball down the field, and has some serious juice as a runner. At 240 pounds, the way that this guy moves is almost unfair, and he's very, very tough to bring down. On the pro side, he creates a ton of explosive plays out of structure. Really fun to watch as the play breaks down. My feeling on Sellers is he's a high variance player going into the next level. Could honestly make the case that he should go back to school for another year, but if he comes out, I think he's going to get drafted and drafted pretty early, because so many of these teams are looking for traits to find that next Josh Allen type quarterback, just an absolute alien who can run and make plays and has a big arm. And, at his best, I think he can be a Cam Newton, like special NFL talent. But is there a chance that he has, could be Anthony Richardson? I think it's on the table. Like, look at what Anthony Richardson was coming out of school. Huge arm, had all the size in the world, has a great rushing ability. Now, to Lenora Sellers' credit, or something that's a plus in comparison to Richardson, one, I think he's had a better college career than Richardson ever has. But number two, he's played a hell of a lot more college ball than Anthony Richardson. So if you're betting, it's a big bet and a big swing to draft a guy like Lenora Sellers. I think situation's going to be the biggest thing for him, because if he goes to a team with a plan in place to get the most out of him, I think we're more likely to see closer to the ceiling there. But if he goes to a situation that's trying to make him something he's not, you might see he might struggle, honestly, and probably could benefit from sitting a little bit. His best game this year, he had 302 passing yards and 2 touchdowns and a loss to Missouri. That was the game that stood out the most from him. And then for Garrett Nussmeier, honestly, he's been pretty underwhelming this year. I think going into the year, a lot of people thought he could be QB1. I don't think he's QB1. I think some of the guys I listed ahead have been better than him. But there's also rumblings that he's playing through something right now. So if you're a believer that he's playing hurt right now, and if your stock is high on him because of the 2024 tape, that would be your reason to draft him in the first round. He's been at LSU for 5 years. This is his second year starting after sitting behind Jaden Daniels. And again, like I said, in 2024 was honestly pretty good, but this year has not been the same guy. His best game this year came in a blowout win against Southeastern Louisiana. So we'll see how he looks this week. For some more scouting background, pocket passer, strong arm, good enough arm, strong processor, good enough arm talent. He's smaller though, 6'1", 207. At times, I think could be a little bit too aggressive and needs to make better decisions with the ball. But there's something there. He's going to get drafted. I would say even at worst coming out this year, I think he maybe a second round guy, but someone's going to buy into Nussmeier because of not necessarily what he did this year, but really more because of the 2024 tape. Now you're done. You have a 12, a 3:30, a 7:45. I don't have Penn State's Drew Aller on my watch list for this week. Talking about polarizing players like Lenora Sellers, Drew Aller is also a polarizing guy. They're playing Northwestern this week. Penn State's 22.5-point favorites. It would be alarming if Drew Aller didn't play well this week. I fully expect him to play well. But we know what Aller is. He has all the tools in the world, right? I get it. For people who watch him and like him, yeah, I get it. He a big guy, prototypical size, can move, make plays with his legs, strong arm, can make every throw. But it doesn't really matter to me what Penn State does against Northwestern. The 3 games that he has after this week, significantly more important. Going up against Iowa, who's a good defense and always a tough team to play, and you have Ohio State and Indiana in the 3 games coming up following this week against Northwestern. The issue with Drew Aller is anytime Penn State has played good opponents, he comes up short. He's been incredibly underwhelming against good competition. For me, he needs to prove that he could hang with the good teams. So I didn't really care what Drew Aller was doing the first few weeks of the year. Wanted to watch him against Oregon, a good team. Started off really bad, came on strong, ended up forcing overtime and played a little bit better, but relatively underwhelming and lost their whiteout game at home. Like, that's obviously not great. And in this game, fully expect Penn State to blow him out, fully expect Drew Aller to play well. Again, I don't really care what he does this week. It's not going to make my opinion either higher or lower on him. I care about what he does the 3 following weeks after that. And if he starts to look better against tough competition, like a good defense in Iowa, like Ohio State, and like Indiana, if they rattle off some wins against those teams, then I think he gets himself back into the top of the quarterback class conversation. But until then, I can't put him up there. I flat out can't. So there we go. A little bit of a longer video, but wanted to get you guys prepped for a very, very important Saturday of college football, especially for the New York Jets, who have the number 1 pick in the draft right now. And if they stay at the number 1 pick, hard to go any other direction than taking a quarterback. So let me know what you think. Who are the quarterbacks that you like right now? What are you watching for on Saturday? Let me know in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.